This is Bear With Us podcast.
Well, can we add Gurrrl? I mean, we aren't all manly like you.
Okay. How's this? This is Bear With Us, girl.
No. More like Gurrrl. Like a glitter bear.
This is Bear With Us, girl.
Perfect. This is Bear With Us, Girl, where we stir the honeypot with hot topics, body issues, the adult industry.
Fashion, news, pop culture, pup culture, and more.
From the bear perspective.
For and by the community.
I can barely stand it. Get it?
You're unbearable.
Honestly, I live for that sound cue. I know we have to change it, but I live for it.
All right, welcome back. We got a new episode, and last night was the Emmys.
It was the Emmys. What a shit show.
I mean, honestly, if you want to watch any of those shows, just wait for social media to tell you what was important, what mattered.
That's exactly. You'll save hours of time. Watching it was so uncomfortable, and yay diversity, yay being woke, but it's like...
But you know what we learned? We learned, as we already know, Jennifer Coolidge is incredible. When they tried to play the music to kick her off, and she was like, no, this is the most important of my life. I'm going to keep going. And then they just kept doing it more and more. She's like, all right, then I'm going to dance.
I'm going to dance. That was my Jennifer Coolidge impression.
I feel like that is what makes the night. And like, I almost feel like you should focus the awards based on who's going to make it fun to watch them win. Do you know what I mean?
Well, yeah.
I know that's
yeah.
It defeats the point of like the craft and the art, but I'm like, I want it to be a good show. Like, I want it to be fun. That's why I would be okay with Gaga winning an Oscar, just because that speech will be the most insane.
It'll be so self-indulgent because she's like forgotten about her monsters. She forgot where she came from, and she's like, I'm Gaga, like God Gaga. It's like, no, girl, remember where you came from. Like, you used to sing at Trunks in West Hollywood. Like, everybody calm down. You know, but let's talk about the fashion. Dresses were ridiculous. Some of the fashion, I was like, did we forget how to design clothes during COVID? Is that like what are we doing?
I mean, for
girls and guys,
especially for the Emmys, it very much it looked very kind of sloppy.
Very sloppy or poofy, didn't fit right.
Exactly, and this is not trying to body shame, gender shame, anything. Like, you can be any body type and still wear a great garment.
100%.
Like, and for example, I love her. I think she's hilarious beyond belief. Megan Stalter.
She just looked trashy. I'm sorry. She looked trashy, sloppy. Come on.
And it's one. And again, it's not saying somebody.
Nothing to do with body
and
positivity.
It's not saying somebody of that size can't wear a sheer outfit. You easily can. It didn't look like the fabric was even good fabric. It didn't look like it was good lace.
No, it looked like she bought it off Shein.
Exactly. I thought the same thing. I'm like, it just looks like you bought what looked like nice in a picture and then arrived in generic lace.
I don't know.
But you can't say that on social media, because then the fans will be like,
because you're a hater and all this stuff.
That.
It's like, you can't say anything. I miss the days like Joan Rivers can say anything she wanted to on the red carpet, and everybody had a good laugh because it was, it was all in all good fun. It's like, we are so careful. Even who was the host from SNL? Mm-hmm. Keenan, whatever.
Oh, Keenan.
He even said before in all of his interviews, he said, I'm going to be very careful. We're not going to poke fun. We're just going to have a really good time. And it was like...
Well, he didn't want to get punched.
Well, that's exactly it. But it's like, the hosts in the old days, maybe I'm just like a grumpy old man, but hosts in the old days were able to poke a little fun, but it was smart humor, number one, and then it wasn't so over the top, it fit.
So the reason why back in the day you could do that is, like, the thing of cancel culture is the problem is that it works so fast. And that's why people don't...
Faster and faster.
Exactly. And that's why people don't want to make jokes, because you could have your whole career end in literally 5 minutes.
100%. I mean, it's like, literally so quick.
Even doing our podcast, like, I still think I'm like, I got to make sure I'm telling people I'm not being this joke. Like, when I was just said earlier about the costumes, I had to literally say, I'm not judging these people. And I had to list all of them. I couldn't just say I didn't like the outfit.
Well, and I have another podcast where I'm not so careful, and it's like,
I know.
I made a Helen Keller joke, and I'm still getting hate email.
That's sad.
Have her write me. We'll get over it.
You should just get written for using a really old, tired joke. Not for being offensive.
Thank you. Like, come at me for something that makes sense, not cancel culture. Anyway.
Just cancel. You don't cancel culture.
Yeah. All right, this show is brought to you by Cybersocket.com, the ultimate resource for gay erotica. Visit Cybersocket.com for adult star exclusive interviews, free clips, fun contributions from our team of porn writers, event listings, including our upcoming trip, November, to Bear Weekend, Key West. We're going to be there. So go to Cybersocket.com for all that goodness.
And we'd also like to thank our media sponsor, Bear World Magazine.
Right.
Bear World Magazine is the only lifestyle magazine celebrating the global bear community in all its glorious, diverse beauty. Head over to bearworldmag.com to check out the great berry content, packed of berry news, interviews, and gossip.
And speaking of Bear World Magazine, celebrating a decade, by the way, and here to talk about it and bear culture, Richard Jones, the co-founder of Gray Jones Media. He has a background that has encompassed TV, presenting, magazine editing, theater production. In early 2012, he began working on a project that would see Bear World Magazine launch its first issue in September. He went on to grow Bear World Magazine into the leading lifestyle bear title in the world, which just celebrated, like I said, its 10th anniversary. Joined by Robin Gray, he has grown the business into one that authentically celebrates diversity throughout the LGBTQ community. He's a recognized leader and expert in LGBTQ media, and I am proud to say that we have also become very good friends over the last few years. So exciting to talk to Mr. Jones. Please welcome Richard Jones.
Hello, it's great to see you guys.
Hello. Welcome.
Welcome. It's so great to see you there from the East Coast. So much to celebrate, not just for Bear World Magazine, but I think for queer culture in the
Miss
media.
Cake Moss?
I'm sorry?
Who's Miss Cake Moss on my Instagram?
Oh, that was our last guest we had. It was a drag queen.
Okay.
Yeah. Bring in the cakes.
I was like, she's not here right now.
Sorry to interrupt you there. But
Yeah, no.
Who that was?
I thought it was, well, I thought it was her
in the background.
Outtrack. It's like, we don't know what she looks like.
She's just stoned, still here.
Wouldn't that be funny? Oh, anyway, we're going to get that patched up. But I want to know, you're an English boy. What was it like growing
Yes.
up in your neck of the woods with your family, with coming out? How did sexuality kind of play a role in your childhood?
Oh, wow. What a great question. Well, I was born in the early 70s, so I kind of grew up in the late 70s into the 80s. And kind of, I mean, it was all very strange. Obviously, pre-internet, the media that you consumed was very much kind of controlled. You didn't see a lot of gay characters on TV the way you kind of do now. Politicians weren't gay. It was very much, I kind of remember dealing with myself and thinking, I'm the only one. I'm the only one in the world. That was my first thinking about it. So yeah, it was weird. And I mean, the minute I knew that other people existed and that was going to be in London, I got to 17 and I moved to London to be gay. So that's kind of what happened with me. So yeah.
When did you discover the bear community?
Later, I kind of around about, just pre-2012 when we launched Bear World Magazine. I mean, again, I understood what bears were, but I hadn't really understood that it was this giant community across the world, across America. So I kind of talk about when I formed Bear World Magazine, I'm kind of learned on the job. I spent that, we launched the work on discovering what the bear community was in the April, and then we came out with the first edition in 2012. In September of 2012. So that period of time, I did a lot of learning, a lot of understanding that it was not just kind of a few guys getting together in a club where I lived. It was so much broader, with discovering Lazy Bear and, P-Town Bear Week and stuff like that. And then everything like the modern bears and Growler, it just became such a big learning experience for me in that early time of the magazine.
So, I just noticed earlier, because your logo is the bear flag, the bear pride flag. I always wondered, do you know what the stripes mean?
All the different, I just assumed they were like colors of the bears. There's a black bear, brown bear.
Yeah, I mean,
do you know if they have a meaning for each one?
Yeah, well, I'm not. Well, I think they're meant to represent the kind of brotherhood of bears, the kind of colors of bears, and the colors of the skin of the bear community. That's my understanding and how I was told. So we use it very infrequently. We just kind of reintroduced it onto the celebratory cover that we just did. And it's actually, when you zoom in on it, it's actually fur. We got a great artist called Silas.
I love that.
To create the flag in fur for our front cover. So we're really excited about that, to use it. And I like to use it sparingly, because I think that when we use it, it should be more, celebratory and important. And that's kind of why we've held back and then thought this was a perfect time. And let's create a special version of it.
Oh, so I just found out what it means. So the bear flag is a pride flag designed to represent the bear subculture within the LGBT community, as we know that. The colors of the flag: dark brown, orange rust, golden yellow, tan white, gray, and black, are meant to include the colors of the furs of actual animal bears found throughout the world. So not necessarily referring to human skin color or hair color, the flag was just designed with inclusion in mind.
That makes sense.
So it's actually representing more actual bears than even us.
Well, yeah.
Well, I mean, I heard that, but I think people have interpreted it as trying to, as you said just there, Teddy, the inclusivity, and I've interpreted that as to mean the kind of the full brotherhood of every kind of diverse bear that's out there.
Yeah, maybe it was just created back in the day for actual fans of real bears, and then we just stole it.
Now, Rich, I want to know your first bear event that you went to. What affected you about the bear community? What were your certain thoughts? I know my first exposure to a bear event was there was a lot to see. There was a lot to witness. There was a lot to process. What was your first reaction, and why have you embraced the community so much, especially devoting 10 years of your life with this publication?
Yeah, I mean, prior to creating Bear World Magazine and kind of prior to me really feeling that I was a bear or discovering that, I was working in the media, and back in the day, the media wanted very specific people to front TV shows, young, thin, with a great tan, and that kind of thing. And that's not what I was, although I was working in the media at the time and kind of wishing I looked different, and not very happy. I kind of discovered I was living in Northern Ireland, and there was a bear night started called Boo Boo, still going to this day. It's a great night in Belfast in Northern Ireland. And began to go to that night and realized kind of how it made me feel, how it made everybody else feel. And just, you suddenly find a tribe, and that word is overused perhaps, but it's really what it felt like to discover other people who I found attractive and were not necessarily young and thin in that kind of typical male beauty way that the media portrayed, and suddenly felt attractive. And I think that was the key, that I suddenly realized somebody could find me attractive the way I looked when I didn't think I looked attractive or attractive enough or whatever. And I think that really made the difference for me to discover a piece of the queer community where I belonged. And it really changed my life because I became happy. And actually, oddly, I lost some weight because I suddenly became a happy person. So, very strange. But yeah, and I think that's the feeling I've had. And when I discovered, I was working in magazines in Northern Ireland, and Bear World Magazine came about by accident. It was just an idea that I gave to somebody else on a bear website that was trying to save their website, like a precursor to Gurrrl, but I can't even remember the name of now. They were looking for ideas to help save the site and help pay the bills. And I threw this idea out at them saying, well, you've got 30,000 members. That's a great readership of a magazine if you started a digital magazine. And they went, well, would you pitch the idea to us? And I was like, okay, that's not what I was planning, but I wasn't working on a magazine at the time. I thought, well, why not? And I pitched the idea more formally. They loved it. Then they ghosted me. And then the site fell apart. So I think that the idea wasn't going to save them. As I was going to share the profits with them, of forming the magazine. But it wouldn't have saved them quick enough, I think. So I think the site died, and I decided to just do it anyway. So I renamed it, and that's how we created Bear World Magazine. And that's how it all kind of happened at the same time.
But how did you get it out there and get people to know about it? Because you said he had 30,000 members already, but
we're talking 10 years ago too. Before,
yeah. So I was like, so how did you grow it? Because anybody can just start a magazine, but to actually make people want to see it, especially back then when there wasn't so much social media, it's not easy.
No, I was very lucky. That period of time between April and deciding to create the magazine to the September was a lot of working, creating ideas, and reaching out. Meeting people, like Modern Bear or the Modern Bear boys, Travis and Chris, talking to Coley, the original owner and founder of Gurrrl. And really, they took me under their wing. I always say it, we wouldn't exist without their support because they just blasted us out. Back when Facebook, you could put something out, 10 years ago, and you could see all the likes clicking and it would go around. And Modern Bears did that on their Facebook. And then Gurrrl gave me a bunch of free shouts and really propelled those first issues to their full audience. And, you'd think maybe people go, well, who do you think you are coming into our space? And it wasn't like that. It really was that brotherhood of, oh, great, we don't, this is a great new concept for a magazine. Let's help you. And I, always take my hat off to them. And then it was just hard work of keeping that going and doing the amount of social media, and just keeping keeping things moving on the magazine, and it found its readership and people shared it, and the readers keep it alive, and that we're very grateful and honored about.
Well, I have to say, I think one of the most loyal subdivisions of our community is the bear community. From the events that I've seen, and I think there, especially 10 years ago, such a need for it. Like the Twinks would be what was hot in West Hollywood, and the Twinks could always congregate at their clubs whenever they wanted to, or other sectors. Like the Party Queens always had their circuit parties to go to. There wasn't like this need to have to build events for your own community. I think the bear community has been pushed out of the general LGBTQ community, I would say, up until maybe like the last 5 years when themes like body positivity kind of started.
So did I tell you that, and I don't know if I'm going to do this or not, and I kind of want to actually play this off you. Mickey's approached me asking if I wanted to do once a month a bear night. And I'm on the fence just for the fact of like, one, I've not had a good experience being a bear at Mickey's. Two, I'm like,
Amen.
I appreciate that they're trying to diversify their club, but I just don't think it's the right idea, because I'm also in talks of also doing an event with Precinct, obviously, which I am doing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, should I just stick my energy with supporting Precinct, which I know will do great with bears, or should I do Mickey's just because I'm lazy and I like it's like close where I live?
Well, and I think this kind of piggybacks on the talk of like Bear World. You didn't just stay in the bear community only. You have spent the last 10 years also building bridges with other sects in the community, other organizations. And I think for West Hollywood, even if it's not successful in its first run, West Hollywood needs to wake up and realize that there are other groups out there that are spending money, that are living in West Hollywood. There's nothing out
West
there.
Hollywood doesn't want to wake up. And that's the only thing is like you're trying.
But you can't wait for somebody to wake up. Sometimes you have to shake them awake.
But that's what I'm saying is like you're trying to make people be mature and expand their horizons for people that aren't mature and don't want to expand their horizons.
But you have to start somewhere, because if we had that kind of attitude, we wouldn't have progressed in like the last 10 years. And I love downtown LA and I love Silver Lake, but it's like a whole other planet. And then that's all you get there. I don't think that community is very inclusive to like the West Hollywood queens that want to come party with them. So it's like, where do these people go?
I don't know. I'm more just focused, but I want to do my event that does well. But from like a deeper meaning, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And it's like, you know what? West Hollywood, there's hairy guys, there's overweight guys in West Hollywood. They just are. So, but to that, there's a club in West Hollywood that will go nameless, asked a group to come in and kind of do something a little edgier, grungier, and they wanted to put go-go boys up of all different body types, hairy, thick, whatever. And they were told in no uncertain words, this is the only go-go boys that we will ever allow dance in the club because that's our brand and that's our aesthetic.
Was this Revolver?
No.
Abby?
We'll talk later. Anyway. But Richard, I want to know from your perspective, how do you think the bear community has changed over the last decade?
I think invisibility, I think that's a big one. I mean, we're not the only people out there celebrating bears. I think, the development of the dating apps that are specifically aimed at bears or different people has been great to some degree to help us find each other. And all the different bear events like North American Bear, World Bear Weekend, Key West Bear Weekend, you guys are coming to, all kind of being developed to help us kind of find ourselves. And what I love about North American Bear and World Bear Weekend is that they really championed the introduction of non-binary folk and female bears. Something that not many places the leather community does that, but like they brought that into the bear community the last few years. I think that's been a real revelation.
What's World Bear?
It's a weekend. It's a title weekend, so you can become Mr. World Bear, Miss World Bear, and World Cub. They've taken the Mr. or the Miss out of Cub and left it open so that you can be any kind of gender expression you want as a cub. And I think they also have World Pet as well. So they're really pushing the boundaries of people's identity even within the bear community. And I think that's a great thing to see, so that more and more people can feel they belong to a group that has always been very welcoming of people. Like even if you're an 18-year-old twink and you want to play with the bears or join the bear, typically I find people will welcome you as long as you're doing it with the right kind of, that's where you feel that you belong in your heart. I think people welcome any kind of bear, I found anyway, across the years.
Yeah, I mean, like there's obviously going to be cliques and judgment of every single community that just exists in human nature. But I will say, at least with the bear community, 9 times out of 10, you have a better chance of fitting in even if you're not even a bear, compared to it being the roles being reversed. If a bear tried to go to an event that wasn't bears,
100%.
there's a very good chance that they're going to be excluded, or even people literally say, like, get out.
Yeah.
100%. And what I love is that I think the bear community and the gay community, we're talking more about the sexuality in the bear community. You know, we talked to Jeff Marks on the last episode, and he talks, you know, it's not just bears need to be having sex with bears, and that's all the only kind of sex that's happening. There's a sexual evolution that people are being honest, like, hey, you know, my attraction goes the distance, or just because I'm a bear doesn't mean I'm necessarily attracted to other bears. But there's not these boundaries that I think were assumed in the past. It's like, well, big guys got to be with big guys, and there's nothing else that can be let into it. Such as your point, Richard, of, you know, twinks want to hang out with the bears. Everybody wants to hang out with the bears. Who cares? You know, it's more about the feeling of the community rather than a distinction of, you know, you must be this tall to ride this ride.
I see what you did there.
or this furry, you know,
Yes.
that's another thing about, you know, the furriness of bears. I think that's, you know, I wish I was furrier, but I deal with that better all the time. As I'm getting older, I'm getting furrier, so that's good. But I think it's very broad, and you see so many friendships develop at some of these weekends that last a very long time, and it's lovely to see, and it's been great to have been part of that. You know, as an individual, going to some of these events over the years and witnessing it, it's been wonderful.
Well, and I have to say, you know, talking about your coming out and kind of like you were 17 and you're like, I'm out of here, I got to go explore myself. You were very heavily involved in the entertainment community. You kind of starting this publication 10 years ago. It's not the environment that it is now that we're like, oh, great, there's a gay podcaster, there's a gay magazine, let's support it, you know, let's read it, whether we're gay or not. You kind of had to come out professionally and be like, okay, this is a publication that I'm working on. Not only am I coming out as gay to the world, but also I'm a bear now too. You know, so it was like this professional coming out, which could 10 years ago been seen as very limiting.
Yeah, I mean, I consider where I was living in the UK at the time, Northern Ireland. It's a very religious community of very different religions, but it's very passionate about their faith and religion. And I was very cautious about what that community would see of a magazine that was obviously very body positive. So I changed my name.
Oh, wow.
Not legally, but people used to know me as David Goodman. And I thought I'd do that for 6 months, set up a new Facebook, launch the magazine. And a few months later, I'd kind of let the name go. But it kind of stuck because that was the editor's name. I was the founding editor. And so for a few years, people knew me as David Goodman.
Wait, how'd you come up with the name?
Oh, pulled out of thin air. No real.
Oh, really?
No, it's not like your porn name of like your first street and your first dog.
No. I mean, I wish there was a really interesting story behind it, but it was just I needed to set up a Facebook page. I felt. I mean, I may have been overthinking it, but I felt at the time that I needed to make sure that the different world, because for a little bit of time I was in different worlds. I was working in the wedding industry, and that's kind of why, you know, the wedding industry is attached to people going to church to get married. Mm-hmm. So there was that real connection to people that I felt I didn't want to cross that line. Not while I was developing it and starting it, you know, where I didn't, at the time, we didn't know how long it would last, where it would go. So I was very cautious. And then thankfully kind of grew up a bit, you know, several years ago and got rid of the name and moved on and back to my real name.
So now you don't have to be cautious at all anymore now, do you?
No, I mean,
It's too late.
I live and breathe this now. I mean, it's been 10 years for Bear World, and as you said earlier, Alexander, no, we do other stuff. We have other magazines reaching other niches in the queer community, and that's been a great kind of growth of the company to learn those lessons of a niche community and how can we do the same for some others, like the over 40s, the gaming community, and people who go on vacation who don't want to lose 20 pounds to go to the beach. You know, that's kind of where vacation comes from. So yeah,
and I do love that your brands they have queer 40, which highlights our community over 40, which is great. And the gaming community has come out of left field. It's always been there, but now there's like formed together. Gaming community is like one of the fastest growing divisions of our community that they're taking off on Twitch, and it's blowing up like crazy.
You know what's crazy is the closer I've gotten to 40, the more I realize it's not old at all. But it's so strange to think to myself, though, because when I was a kid, 40 was my parents' age. So, like, I think of 40 as, like, that's the oldest.
Or the Golden Girls. You're like, wait you were 50?
You just grow up thinking, like, that's, like, the oldest age. And then the closest you get to that age, you literally realize you're like, I mean, I still feel the same I've always felt.
Yeah.
But like to think like you need the fact that you need a magazine that does say like over 40, it's crazy that society is literally makes it like after you reach a certain age, you're dead.
But it's funny. I think body positivity has gotten better in Hollywood, but I don't think ageism has. And I know ageism, for the fact, in our own community has not. You know, I never talk about my age because I think if you haven't done certain things career-wise, if you tell a casting director, you tell somebody, oh, hey, this is my age, I'm like, oh, you haven't had your own talk show on TV yet? You know, and then you'll never do it. Like, I'd still get scared of that.
No, and you're actually true, because like I have a friend who does casting, and she says it's not important what your age is, it's important what you look like realistically.
Yeah.
So it's smarter to be like, if it's for this age, the demographic, just apply and don't tell them.
That's what I tell them, like, 22, yes, sir. Now, Richard, I want to know, you know, we've seen over the years, gay websites have come and gone. We've seen magazines come and go. We've seen podcasts come and go. What do you credit Bear World staying relevant throughout a decade and continuing growing, continuing building up your readership and events? What do you contribute that success to?
I think listening, really understanding what the bear community is doing at any one time. And I mean, it doesn't mean we get it right all the time, but trying to be, it's not a vanity project. It isn't about me. It's about the community and making sure that we really try and report on everything. I mean, we try and report every single event. We try and report, you know, even other magazines that we've covered, other, you know, podcasts, whatever it is that we think the bears are into, that's either for bears or by bears, however broad that may be. That's what we strive to do. And we haven't made it something that is about pulling the money out because I want to buy something. It's about, well, how can we just keep it going? How can we grow the business? How can we make it stronger? And that's, I don't know how to do it any other way. You know, I mean, I'm not even a trained writer. I don't have an English degree or anything. I've been very, very lucky that people have edited the magazine with me. Robin, who's come on and is now my business partner, he came on as a volunteer to help with the magazine. Then he became the deputy editor. Then he took over the editorship as we developed the company. And I think his coming on board, we have such a similar attitude to business about laying the foundations, making the foundations strong. We'll see you in good stead for years. Where I think some people think everything that you get into is an instant moneymaker. Mm-hmm. And when it isn't, they kind of have to revert back to other jobs or whatever. And we've been very lucky that we've made just enough money over the years to keep us from having to do that fully. You know, so we've been very lucky. And I think if you're going to be a niche magazine for community, you've got to be listening to that community and trying to entertain them and give them that information that they need and want.
Now, from your point of view, you know, it's so easy now with technology and resources such as Instagram to go live or, you know, to Wix to build your own website. Everybody, there's this boom of gay content. Even now we have Hallmark Christmas movies, you know, like we have everything now. Is there too much gay content just being pushed out there? And how do we rise above that kind of, if I was be devil's advocate, to say kind of noise? Because there is a lot of content out there that might not be of a certain quality that we would want to represent our community.
That's a tough one. I mean, my take on it is there are two types of gay content. There's the gay content that's made for us, or queer content made for queer people, and the queer/gay content that's made for a straight audience to consume. And I think that's where you find, I think the Hallmark movies are not for us. I think they're for the straight community to see and for us to be seen. And I think that's great. I'm not saying that shouldn't happen, but I think our own entertainment for ourselves isn't necessarily the kind of the Hollywood machine. I think, you know, there's millions of independent movies made every year and TV shows and web series. I mean, like Where the Bears Are. I mean, you know, we started with Where the Bears Are on the front cover.
That's right.
Because those guys couldn't get work in Hollywood, yet they couldn't get enough work. They had dribs and drabs and millions of different jobs, but they decided to grab the horns by themselves and create a web series and became very, very successful. And I think there's a difference from that is kind of made by and for us. You know, and I mean, I am at, you know, Bros just came out. You know, we hunted the PR down. We have very good relationships with a lot of the networks now in terms of getting content from Netflix and reviews and pre-launched, you know, visibility of seeing shows and films. The Bros team didn't want to know us.
Really?
I have not had one press release from the Bros team.
Why?
I don't know. I even had the PR person on the phone, gave her my email and said, we'd really love to cover it. And then we've been ignored.
That's weird because that's such like a, they're still trying to grow that movie, so it's weird they would say no to anybody.
Well, and here's the thing: one of the executive producers who also plays Billy Eichner's character's best friend is Guy Branum, who is his heavyset. He wrote a whole book called "I'm a Goddess," and he talks about body positivity. And he plays a highly sexual character. His character is hooking up left and right as a big guy. So it's a perfect match.
Well, I would have understood it 10 years ago when we were brand new, but, like I said, we have good PR relationships with a lot of the networks now, and we get a lot of press releases and, the screeners and everything, but we could not get Bros, and we really wanted to support it. So we've covered it, we've reviewed it, without all of that. But I think there's that issue of we're not the advocate, and I think we're seen as a bit player to the advocate. And quite rightly, the advocate has been here for many, many years and helped us get our rights, if you like, and I support them for that.
But do you think maybe the issue was other magazine had rules that like if we're gonna cover your movie, you're not allowed to go to other X, Y, and Z gay magazines?
I mean, I think sometimes that happens, but normally that lasts a week. Like you get an exclusive for 5 days or 10 days, and then it's open season.
100%.
Because no movie would agree not to send a press release somewhere, I think. I mean, I don't know.
I think there's a couple of things going on here because my relationship, and I don't want to say something that I shouldn't. I think we're still dealing with people that are actually in the executive offices, the people that are working in the PR firms, the people that I've even heard stories that are even working on wardrobe on some of these movies. They are not part of the community. Mm-hmm. And Hollywood, as the creators, Billy Eichner may have written the film, executive produced the film, but he's not actually like there on the team. And the team is very still old school Hollywood. Casting directors still have a lot to learn. And so they don't know languages such as a Bear World community.
Good point, actually. They don't know that like Bear would be perfect for this because they hear Bear World and they're like, I'm confused. Is this about zoos and fishing? We don't need this.
And for them, they've only heard Advocate. So it's like, well, that's the only magazine that matters because they have not evolved with the front people on Hollywood. So I think that's definitely going on. I also think what's going on, because I've run through this with a few other publications that I work with, and I'll pitch a story or something. They go to the website, there's an underwear ad, or there's an ad for lube, or there's two hairy bears kissing each other on BearWorldMagazine.com. And then all of a sudden, because they're not of the community, they don't speak our language, they recoil, and it's like, oh, well, that's not appropriate for a major motion picture. Well, that's what I think.
I actually think you nailed it on the head, because it most likely comes down to shaming, a shame of sex workers or anything like that. And if any association, any risk of being possibly associated with something as taboo as sex, then they're like, we need to back up.
Which is so funny because even in mainstream depictions of gay men, Grindr is a joke. It's like, he's on Grindr. Well, how is that okay?
And I was going to bring up too, like, I am so sick of Hollywood doing the joke of like showing a guy over 40 who just discovers Grindr, and he's always been like, what is this app? How do I use it?
Yeah, you're like bloop.
Like you didn't come from the past. You didn't go in a time machine. You're a grown man. You know how to use Grindr, even if you just got out of a relationship. But that's old Hollywood trying to depict what they think gay people are, as opposed to an actual active gay man being like, nobody talks like that.
But
I think. Oh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, but I think that's such a great point. Your magazine has been able to grow, even being a niche of a niche of a niche. You know what I mean? And the bear community, they're unabashed. I mean, they'll be out in their leather and dancing at their pool parties. You see everything. You see every fold. You see every hairy body part. And so that also must have been a struggle when things were so mainstream and things were so careful. I mean, even Instinct magazine barely showed a waistband and we all went crazy. But there
barely.
was but that also must have been a struggle in getting advertisers and getting people to be in the magazine, some of the celebrities that you've been able to talk to. And it's kind of selling that. It's like, this is what our community looks like unabashedly.
I mean, I think it still can be a struggle. We're talking to some great brands these days who see the company as a whole, and we're able to kind of really position the company. And I kind of think they can get their head around that the company has access to all this readership, and therefore it's all kind of folded in. Back in the day, we were talking to plus size brands who some of them wouldn't talk to us. I mean, I actually got one day the PR guy for Ralph Lauren, who was their guy for plus size, and he didn't want to know. He didn't want to talk to me.
Wow.
Just, I don't know what the fear was. We've always been we've never showed more nudity than you would see in Men's Health.
Right. Exactly.
Occasional bare butt, but like absolutely very, very occasional. And some of the plus size brands back in the day didn't even shoot their clothes on models. They
yes,
put
I
them
know
on the
this very well.
flats, you know?
I know this very well. It's like, well, what does it look like on a person? Or they just show the skinny version of it on a skinny model, and they're like, it's available in 3X. It's like, well, what does it look like?
It's. I mean, thankfully, it's changing. You know, we're getting better at conversations, and the companies that are being created by bears to produce bear underwear or bear T-shirts or other bear clothing are popping up, and we really kind of throw ourselves behind them because I think it's great that we're making it for ourselves. If we can't find it in the stores, we're making it for ourselves, and I think that's really been something that we've always championed. You know, Bears in Business is something we've always done where we've interviewed, owners of businesses, and that's been great to kind of showcase that too, as well as the entertainment and the fun and body positivity.
100%. And also, I think it is bleeding into even some of the gay designers. We know some of the designers, we know right off the top of our head, their extra large is not an extra large. It's a medium large at best. Or they'll put out a 2XL. That bitch is not a 2XL. It's like a large t-shirt at best. But I think that kind of is changing where even size is like, I think especially during COVID, a large population of our community came out of COVID a little bit heavier, and case in point. But it's like, I think a lot of people realize there needs to be changes in terms of our sizes, in terms of the clothing that we even wear. I want to bring up another hot topic because I love talking hot topics with you because you've seen every aspect of entertainment and the bear community. Will there always be a need for a Bear World magazine, or should we be trying to build bridges with the rest of the community to become totally inclusive? Does focusing on one aspect of the community kind of counteract the unification that we're trying to have?
No, but you may answer.
I mean, no. I mean, I think I know what you were saying, Teddy. I mean, I like the ideal of that, Alexander. I like the ideal that we're all together, but that hasn't been the case for so long that I think that the tribes that we find ourselves in whatever that is there for a reason, because we want to belong. And I think you can't belong to everything. You can only belong to what you feel as to where you belong. And if I don't feel I belong at a Twink bar, great, I've got a Bear bar I can go up the street to, and that's great. I think that's fine. I'm not against the Twink bar. I'm glad that there's a bar for me, and I hope that stays for a long time. And I remember being in London when I was 17, when, you had to skulk around to go to a bar. And I remember talking about, when we get equality, all our bars will disappear. And I think that has happened. I think the gay bars are going because we don't need to go to them, because we probably can go to so many more what we might have called back in the day a straight bar, and I think there is a need for something to make us feel where we belong. So, I think Bear World Magazine has to evolve. I think it has to think about what is a bear, who belongs in the bear community. And we try and bring that with many different kinds of writers and showcasing many different kind of bears on our digital front cover. We've had a trans bear, we've had a woman bear, we've had a bearded drag queen bear. We try to make sure that community is different and shown. And I think that's the goal, across the niches, is the niches exist for a reason. And I think you just have to, again, keep your ears open as to how that niche itself evolves and be there alongside it.
I think you answered it perfectly. And that's what it is that bear is never going to go away, and that's a good thing. But bear has evolved, and that's an even better thing. So back in the day, a bear was only a guy who's fat and hairy.
Yeah.
Then it evolved, and then it evolved again and again and again. And now, as you've listed, you can be a bear and have no body hair now. It's more of just the ideals of what you want to represent, of being, you're different, and you want to be around other people that say it's okay for you to be different. That's more what bear is becoming. And now it's still of course, it is still traditionally, you're going to see the hairier guys, more thicker guys, but it can be anything now. Girls can be bear, guys can be bears, you can be non-binary bears.
And I think Bear World has a big part in this, is like the image, like the clip art. You know, I always use clip art as like a general term of the image that's always used. It was always...
It's a very dated term, by the way.
I come from AOL.
How old are you again?
Yeah.
How old are you again? I think Hollywood just knows how old you are now.
I know. There we go. There goes my talk show. No, but just the image that was always used was the shirtless, heavier set, hairy guy, either at like a pool party or with like the leather halter top. That's the only image I knew growing up. Or there's like a cigar out of their mouth. You know what I mean? But now, because of publications like your magazine, like the images we're seeing, there's bear business guys. So there's guys in suits. You know, that's a bear, just like a pool party bear, you know?
And now it's updated. Instead of cigar, it's a vape pen.
Yeah, now it's a vape pen. But even certain actors that are taking the spotlight, even heavier female actors in Hollywood, nobody's focusing on their weight anymore. Remember, every time Melissa McCarthy would come out, they would focus on her weight. Now it's just, a new Melissa McCarthy film has come out.
Now, the thing that I want to have happen, and like this is still a personal goal of mine, I want to have representation for hairy guys on mainstream TV. We have never seen a guy with a hairy back be on a show that's not there to be the butt of a joke.
Because aesthetically, that's not pleasing. Aesthetically, that's what we assume women are like, ew, there's a hairy back.
But the thing is, that's not even true. If you talk to so many straight women, they're very attracted to it too. It's just like you said, old Hollywood still thinks these are the rules, and every single human being on the planet follows these rules.
Yep. Well, and we can thank the 90s for that. Remember, it was like all the soap opera hunks and the 90210s that were completely smooth. Like,
I mean, that was when we were all plucking our eyebrows. Like, I had mine like waxed off, basically. They were thin.
No, but like maybe you can talk about your evolution as well, because you were that skinny little kid that was shaving. You know, I saw you on an old episode of Dancing Moms. I'm like, is that Teddy Bear?
Like, the only thing you could recognize was like I still had my beard, but like everything was shaved off. It was waxed off.
It was so weird to see because I'd never seen you that way. At what point did you decide, fuck this, I'm going to grow some hair. I'm going to be myself?
It was when it became like a losing battle. And then thanks to, again, like the bear community, it was one of those things like I showed up to a bear event and I had just, because I was just lazy that week, I forgot to shave my shoulders. And I had so many guys come up to me and start like petting me. And I never thought like that's an option. Usually it's somebody, if they touch me, it's like, ew, you forgot to show your shoulders. Why aren't you wearing a shirt? And then I got a different response where I was like, oh, wait, maybe there are actually people that don't hate this. Maybe there's people that actually accept me for how I am. And that's when I started getting more involved with the bear community and then feeling more comfortable to be like, not only is this something that you guys don't make fun of me for, but now you're telling me I'm hot because of it? Oh, it's going to be, so I don't have to hate myself? I didn't know that was an option. So thank you, bears.
Well, I have to say, you know, I've had my own coming out, so to speak, as well. Even, you know, Richard, we've had this conversation as well. When I was writing for Bear World and I would go to some of the events, I would feel so threatened that somebody would view me as heavy, because at that time my weight was going back and forth of acceptable bear, and I always would try to hide it with, you know, all kinds of things, and it was like, bitch, you're thick. Like, just be thick and be happy about it. And there's such a relief. There's such a comfort to be like, you know, this is who I am. Can I still be a healthy person at my side? Sure. Can I feel included? Can I dress well? Can I party? Can I have great sex? Yeah. And that's such realization. But I think everybody in the bear community has their own moment of just relaxing. And it's like, I feel safe. I feel good. You know, and I can be whatever I want to be. I love bears. So I want to know, Richard, as well, you know, you're so busy with so many things, like we talked about Queer 40, other publication, gaming, the gaming awards as well. But also you are married. How do you maintain a healthy relationship while being so busy, while being, you know, what's the next issue? What's the next issue? Where's the next sponsor? What's the next event?
I'm very fortunate that we have a team of people these days. You know, back in the day, it was just me, and then it was me and Robin, and the company has a team. My husband works for the company now. He's our staff writer, and he actually works on Queer 40 and Vacationer. He doesn't really work on Bear World. I'm not his boss, but he has actually been writing for us since the early days. I actually met him through him writing an article for Bear World about a bear event. And we just kind of connected and met, and we've never been apart.
That's
So
like a
he's actually one of the
that's
oldest
like a
writers on the team.
that's like a romantic bear comedy.
That is. Hey,
know, right?
Instead of bros, just do bears.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just really fortunate. I mean, the other thing is, I think when we write about a lot of different stuff, especially when it's in different cities and countries, people assume I go to everything, and of course, we don't have to go to everything. So we seem busier physically than we actually are, but that's how it is. We can write about stuff, people send their photographs in, and we just kind of keep it going that way across a lot of the magazines. And our vacationer, our editor, is traveling all the time, but that's more of a nature of a travel magazine. But there we go.
Now, in looking back at the decade, what has been one of the proudest moments from the magazine for you?
That's a tough one because it's been so many great moments. I think for me personally, meeting Armistead Maupin back in the early days, being invited onto like a real press junket and meeting Armistead Maupin was great. It was really emotional. As a young man reading Tales of the City when I first went to London at 17, to then later in life actually sitting down with him and talking to him very professionally was great. And he was a gentleman, and every now and again I see him at P-Town and he still recognizes me. We catch a couple of moments and it's just really special. So yeah, that's probably my biggest, not so much just because he was famous, but I think just it really shone a light onto where Beowulf magazine had come from. And that moment of, okay, a major person is prepared to be on the front cover. I think that really tipped the balance of our future and really solidified us as a real player,
So he wrote like Sex and the City in San Francisco before Sex and the City was a thing, but it dealt with like so many issues, and then it became a TV show and spin-off, and it had a revival. But that book affected a lot of people growing up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, and that's an honor. I had the honor to hear him speak, and I mean, just everything that he had been through, and the intelligence and the honesty that he looks at the LGBTQ community and beyond, and the reality of a generation that grew up during that era that. That we have so much to learn from.
Definitely.
Okay, let's talk about Bear Weekend Key West. Where can people buy tickets, and what should we expect? What's going to happen?
Okay, well, get tickets at keywestbearweekend.com. You can find all the information, the schedule, and buy all the ticketing that you need there. Now, you don't need a ticket. You can just turn up in Key West. Make sure you obviously got some accommodation. You can come to one or more of the events and just pay at the door. For some of them as well. So don't feel like you have to buy a ticket to get in to the various things. We've got some great stuff. Like we have different pool parties. You guys are hosting one of them for us. We have our title night, Mr. Key West Bear. We're still a baby event, so we still just have one title, which is Mr. Key West Bear. And yeah, it's quite low key really, because there's a lot to do in Key West. We're very passionate at making sure that our bears spend their money on the island and keep the first Key West Bear Weekend was just after a hurricane, so they were very passionate about us making sure we came and made things happen and kept the island afloat. So we try to keep that ethos every year as we go down there. So, and we run that with a guy called Shane Tate. So it's the one event by accident we ended up creating with Shane Tate, and we kind of we love it very much. We treat it as a bit of a holiday for our team on Bear World. And our team being me and Robin and my husband, basically. And Shane.
It's going to be fun, though, and we're going to be at Island House Key West for the pool party on Friday. I'm going to be there Thursday night for the event Thursday night, and then we're going to be helping out at the Mr. Bear.
And do we get to help choose the winner?
Well, the way we do, we're going to ask you, Alexander, to host the night. So you're going to be the hostess for the mostest. And Teddy Bear, we're going to make you a celebrity guest judge on the panel with everybody else.
Celebrity?
Oh, celebrity!
Exactly. So yeah, we get a fun bunch of guys, and we don't take it too seriously, but if they win the title, they have eligibility to go into things like North American Bear or World Bear Weekend and run for those titles. So it's very much like traditional pageant kind of stuff.
I love it, and it's at Bourbon Street pub, which I love. It's so great. It'll be so fun taking over the island with our berry goodness.
going to be good to be back. It's our first time since the pandemic, so we're very excited. Very, very excited.
That'll be a good feeling for you.
Yeah,
definitely.
Richard, what's your message to the bear community after doing this for a decade?
Stay being you. Don't feel that you have to change. I think that's the key message for the whole company. Whoever you are, you're valid right now. You don't need to change to be attractive. You don't need to change to be successful. You don't need to change to be part of our community. Just be you. Find what you are that makes you happy and stay that way. That's the biggest piece of advice I would say.
I love it. Now, where can people read the magazine? Where can they sign up for alerts?
Go to bearworldmag.com for the website. All our Facebook, Insta, and Twitter is @bearworldmag. And when you go to Bear World Mag, the pop-up will come up to ask you to sign up for our newsletter, and that comes out every week, and it comes of a recap of what's going on, and we do various promotions, and that's how you keep in touch with us.
I love it. Well, thank you for everything you've done for the community at large and for the bear community and everything that you continue to do.
Well, thank you, you guys. I really love what you're doing here. I love getting to know you, and thank you for what you're doing, and we love you back.
It was nice to actually see a face to somebody I've been working with for almost 2 years, but never known. I've just known a magazine as if it's the magazine's a person.
And
we're gonna have some fun in November.
Oh, we're gonna have a lot of fun, as long as we take separate flights. Richard, we still fight.
You have to make sure you pull the window down.
There you go. There you go.
He knows. He
it's
listens to the pod.
Oh, wait, Richard. So every time I fly now, I send him a picture. I don't comment. I just send him a picture of the open window.
He gets left unread.
I do, too. All right, Teddy Bear, tell everybody where you want them to find and follow you.
You can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Mr. Teddy Bear Gurrrl.
And you can find me on Instagram at AlexanderIsOnAir and send us your questions. Email us at bearwithusgurrl@gmail.com, and that's Gurrrl. You can watch and or listen to any of our episodes for free at bearwithusgurrl.com. And until next time, have a very good time.
Grr.
That has been another episode of Bear With Us, Girl, presented by Bear World Magazine and Cybersocket.com.
Please take a moment to like, subscribe, comment, rate, all the love and support you can give, guys.
Questions, comments, and suggestions? Email us at bearwithusgirl, 3 R's, @gmail.com.
Until next time, embrace the fur.
Grrr.